Hello, everyone. We will be reporting some additional information regarding the paint manufacturing industry. For the outline would be the paint manufacturing process. Number two is the pollution control problems. Number three would be the proposal to address these problems. And lastly is the feasibility of methods and advancements. As we can see, this is the paint manufacturing process, which was discussed in the previous presentations. But for now, we will be discussing the problems regarding the obsolete stock, the cleanup waste or packages, and the off spec products, which would be seen in the next slide. So, here are our pollution control problems. First would be the paint containers and raw materials packaging. Second would be the obsolete stock, the off specification paint, off specification raw materials, and lastly, the paint sludge.
Now let us proceed to the proposed solutions in addressing the stated problems. First is by recycling waste packaging materials. Recycling waste packaging materials is the process of collecting and processing materials that would otherwise be discarded as trash and transforming them into new products. In the paint industry, the most common waste materials are bags, packages, cans, and filters. This can be done by segregation at the source, where waste should be segregated at the disposal point, including sorting of plastics, metals, and papers. The pros of this solution is first, being cost effective for the long term as it reduces the waste disposal fees. Second is it reduces the amount of waste sent to landfills. By reducing the amount of waste accumulated, it will conserve the spaces in landfills. And it also conserves natural resources. By being in a closed loop recycling procedure, there will be fewer production of packaging materials, which leads to a decrease in the use of natural resources needed to manufacture those products. As for the cons, it mainly requires new process for sorting and cleaning the packaging materials, which could be costly at first. There's also the factor of increasing labor. Next, we have the reuse or remix of off-spec paint and raw materials. Basically, off-spec materials are products that do not meet the established quality specifications or standards. And by creatively reusing or remixing these materials, manufacturers can contribute to a more circular economy while reducing the environmental impact of wastes. Here are some of the ways to remix off-spec paints. First is by blending with compatible batches, where off-spec paints are blended with other batches that have similar color, formulation, or property. There's also the adjusting of color and viscosity by remixing with colorant or thinner to bring it to the desired specification. However, this process requires careful quality control to avoid contamination. And lastly, there's an option to do product differentiation, where off-spec paints with minimal deviations from standard specifications can be sold at discounted price or other product. The pros of this method are first, minimizing waste generation. Off-spec paints can be reused in new batches, which leads to the reduction of paint waste. Second, it lowers the production cost. Using off-spec paint and raw materials may lower the production cost as it reduces the need for new raw materials. As for the con, as mentioned earlier, quality control. Since the quality of the products will be varied and it must meet the required standards. It may also require additional treatment or process wherein new equipments may be costly and might increase production complexity. And the last proposed method is by recycling dried paint sludge as a concrete enhancer. This method can be innovative solution to manage paint solid waste in the paint industry while contributing in the development of sustainable construction materials. Dried paint sludge, or also known as paint overspray, is a complex mixture of polymerized paint particles, pigments, solvents, and other additives. It is often a byproduct of industrial painting processes, and instead of being disposed in landfills or incinerated, the sludge can be processed and repurposed to enhance concrete properties. Paint sludge can be utilized in concrete mixes by making it an additive in the concrete. The dried paint sludge can be mixed into concrete as a partial replacement for traditional components like sand, fine aggregates, or cement. It can also be used as a binder because some components in the dried paint sludge may act similarly to additives in concrete, helping to improve the bonding and adhesion properties of the mix, which in turn makes it stronger and more durable. The pros of this method is it reduces negative environmental impact by utilizing paint waste as another material for a different product. While the con is that it may include additional cost if the company decides to have a concrete production to utilize dried paint sludges. It may also have additional cost for transport of dried paint sludge to the concrete industry.
For the feasibility of methods and advancements, first, for small scale, the most appropriate and feasible method to be implemented among the proposed methods is recycling waste packaging materials. Aside from the advantages mentioned above, it is relatively easy to implement. It does not require any additional equipment, which makes it simpler. Moreover, this method is also flexible as various sizes of the paint industry can implement it. It has a significant positive environmental impact by actively practicing proper waste disposal. One challenge that it can face, however, is it requires proper collection and separation to guarantee that materials are recycled appropriately. Next would be the high scale operations in the paint industry. They could largely benefit from using the reuse or remix of off spec paint and raw materials method, since they process a large volume and the amount of off spec paint that they produce is most likely to be enormous. This method optimizes the production efficiency by reusing and remixing the off spec paints, and it could significantly reduce the amount of raw materials that they will be using to achieve the required quantities to be produced. The closed loop system that this method creates, where the materials are continuously reused and recycled, will bring significant savings for the company. So, the challenges that this method might face would include the quality control and regulatory compliance since they're reusing the materials. So, there must be a limit to the acceptable amount of reused or mixed paint in a single product. So this will directly affect the regulatory compliance since the products are at risk of being hazardous.